I think I told that whole story, how that film kept showing up as my film.
No, you haven't told me that story. That's the perfect story for a podcast. Are you a filmmaker who wants to make their first feature film, but needs a little extra push of inspiration to make it happen? Or maybe you're someone who loves movies and just wants to hear all the gory details about film production. Either way, you are in the right place, so stick around, don't go nowhere, because...
It's the Hey, You Made Your Movie Show, hosted by Carl Diamond.
Hey cinephiles and filmmakers, welcome to the Hey You Made Your Movie Show where I interview indie directors who recently released their debut feature film. I am your host with the most, Carl Diamond. Before we get to this week's interview, I want to address the current situation in the world. I know we're all stuck in quarantine for the most part. COVID-19 is going around the world. It's getting a little better, but still we're stuck inside. Some of us got laid off, some of us are working from home, and some of us are freaking out. I think we all crave emotional connection, which just happens to be the theme of this week's film. So, as a human being, I'm craving emotional connection. I'm gonna call my dad. If I can find my phone. Here it is. I'm gonna call my dad and see if I can get some emotional connection out of him. Here we go.
Hello. Please leave a message after the tone.
Huh. He's not answering his phone. I know he's at home. I know what he's up to. I know my dad. He's probably out and about somewhere. I'll call my sister. Yeah.
Hello. Please leave a message after the tone.
She's not answering her phone. Well, her phone's always on silent, so maybe that's it. I know. Grandma. Grandma with her old school phone. It cannot be put on silent.
Hello.
What is going on? How am I going to find emotional connection? My wife's at work. All my friends work from home, so they're probably at Zoom meetings. I know. Gypsy! There she is. There's my cat. Hello, my love. So I had the opportunity to speak with a director by the name of Michael Masarof. We talked about his debut feature, First Love. I had a great time talking to Michael. He's really knowledgeable about certain aspects of the film industry. Come on, eat your food. Eat your food. He's a good kitty. Yes, I feel emotionally connected to you. No, come back. All alone again. So, without further ado, here is the trailer for Michael Masarof's First Love.
Yeah, just looking for my sister.
Yeah, she's an actress.
Lisa Russo's your twin sister.
I wrote a memoir. It's a publishing company that is really interested.
Well, of course, why wouldn't they be? It's about Lisa Russo.
Who knows when Lisa Russo will come out of hiding?
Hollywood tragedy.
Speaking of people who won't be invited to any hot Hollywood parties this summer, former child star and current train wreck Lisa Russo is still nowhere to be seen.
Crest here. You ready to make a lot of money?
Yeah, of course.
I like you, and I like the book. I want to have you take this and have her sign that she doesn't like to leave her room, right?
Matthew.
You're
such a fucking liar. What are you, hard up on money or something?
No.
Is that what it is? What?
I came out here and you told me that if I wrote something fresh, that it would be a go, and I wrote something. I wrote it very fast, and it was very personal, and now you're telling me that I have to wait months.
So do your fucking job and get me the part.
Matthew, am I the same person I used to be?
Sorry, I don't have room for you. I never felt as loved as you did. And I regret that I never told you that, but I do love you. I just want to go home.
Michael Masarof. Hey, you made your movie. Hello, how's it going, Mike?
I think I turned on the subtitles. I don't know how to... Are you seeing that on your side?
Are there subtitles on my side?
I just turned them off. Okay.
Oh, it's amazing. I didn't even know you could do subtitles.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. I see you have the poster in the background.
Yep, I was prepared this time.
What do you mean this time? We're not recording this again. How are you doing today?
Pretty good, yeah. Just surviving the
hanging
apocalypse.
Were you up to anything earlier today?
No, I wasn't doing anything earlier today. Other than I went outside for like 5 minutes. It's like Mad Max now when you go outside.
It is. You have to wear the mask. You have to... What used to be mundane is now like a special event.
Yeah, it just feels like you're in a video game when you leave the house.
Oh, it's so weird. It's like going to the store and you see all the signs, like limit this per customer and social distancing.
Very surreal.
It's super surreal, man. So, Michael Masarof, you are from New York, correct? New York State?
New York State of mine, yep.
Are you from New York City, or?
I grew up actually in the suburbs of New York in a town called Scarsdale, New York.
Scarsdale, New York? What kind of suburbs is that?
You know, it's not like you're living in the countryside, but it's also not like you're in, a big city. But it it has enough going on that you wouldn't think you were in the middle of nowhere. It's only 20 minutes outside of New York City, so
a lot of culture there.
I think the culture of the suburbs of New York are New York City. It's almost like living in, I guess, not Orange County is a bad example because Orange County is like a wasteland, but it'd be like living really close to LA. I mean, LA has no culture, so I guess it's not really. I don't know if there's a good example in LA, but yeah, I mean, I think living in where I grew up is basically New York City is like your culture.
So there's a lot of the city in Scarsdale.
Yeah, I mean, not in the actual town, but when you go out inside the town itself, I don't know if there was culture. I don't really remember.
But as far as you're concerned, the culture you remember growing up was New York City.
Yeah, culture. I mean, I didn't go to like Broadway shows all the time, but if we were going anywhere, I mean, in high school, I would go to concerts all the time, and they were in New York. They were, there's actually the funny thing about not necessarily Scarsdale, but the bigger county of Westchester, which is where I grew up. Mm-hmm. It's one of those places when you're growing up, because you're a kid, you don't really your mind isn't open to, you're not like searching what's going on in town, but it actually has like some pretty historic places and a lot of really beautiful museums and culture. But it's weird. It's something I've never thought about until you just mentioned it. But yeah, as a kid, you're not like, what's the latest museum that's opening up in town? But yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on, and obviously it's a town and a county that's full of like very famous people who've grown up there. And actually, where I grew up itself is very a lot of like famous celebrity film and TV and entertainment people grew up there. So Aaron Sorkin is probably one of the bigger names.
Oh, Aaron Sorkin, there we go.
He went to my high school. I mean, well, he went to my high school, but also he was my cousin.
You said might have misheard you. You said Aaron Sorkin's your cousin?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Marriage, yeah.
Oh, by marriage, okay.
But it's also funny because the other interview I did, the same question was asked, and I said that since I've known that, I've tried to get in touch with him. He's never responded. So, not that there's going to be a million people watching this, but if someone stumbles upon this, it's like, call me back, bro.
Aaron Sorkin's our number one fan.
Call his cousin back.
What's up, cuz? Aaron Sorkin's your cousin by marriage? Are there any other creatives in your family? Mom and dad, creative at all?
I think everyone's creative, but in terms of being in the industry, no.
So what did they have to say when you came up to them and said, Mom and Dad, I want to get into the film industry?
They were always really supportive of me. And I also there was never like a moment where I was like I'm in medical school, but I'm going to drop out and go.
You weren't an aspiring doctor, then caught a play or like saw a movie and your life wasn't changed. So what was it? Was it like something you knew early on, or what was it?
I feel like wearing these headphones, you're kind of like in like a fundraiser for like musical for like homeless people. It's like we are. Yeah. So there was never. I was always as a wee lad. I was always very into not necessarily movie making, but like entertaining. Like the first thing I got really into when I was a little kid was like being on stage.
Were you in plays?
Yeah, play. Again, I wasn't.
Well, not like big plays, but like community theater.
No, I definitely never did community theater, which is interesting. I think also at some point, not to be rude, but one of the reasons why I didn't get more into theater is that I realized like the people involved in it are really annoying.
Okay.
Whereas film is sort of there. It's a little more like indie and like kind of hard edged and like.
I don't know. There's some annoying people in film too.
No, there are. But I think when I was a kid, I was like, I wanted to star of plays. I think if I did community theater, I think I'd be annoyed by people, which is funny because you would think it would be really fun. I mean, it is fun. I don't know. That show, was it Waiting for Guffman? That movie?
No, I'm unfamiliar. Should I check it out? Waiting for Guffman? Should I write that one down?
That's pretty bad that not only have you never seen it, but you've never heard of it. You should probably end this interview, you should watch it, then you should come back and we should start it again. I think what's funny like that is like kind of I think the thing is everyone takes it really seriously, like too seriously, community theater, and that was sort of probably why. I mean, there's nothing wrong with taking it seriously, but it was sort of like.
Was it elitist?
I think it was elitist. I don't think I ever did. I'm just saying the little bit taste I got of it. That's what it seemed like to me. But I could be completely off. I don't know.
But that little taste turned you off from it?
Well, no, I think what happened is when I was a kid, I would do all the plays, and I think it was more like I was the star because no one else wanted to do it, especially at like camp. I don't know if that's a thing where I grew up, you go to like summer camp, there'd be plays. It's a big like Jewish New York thing. So I was like, 10, 11, 12 or something. I went for 4 summers, and I was literally the star of every play, but it wasn't because I was good, it's because no one else wanted to do it.
There's Michael on stage again.
Yeah, literally. It was like, oh, who's the star of this play? And then I think what happened is at some point I guess I became aware of what I was doing, and like my voice wasn't very good as like a puberty person, I started trying out for like school plays, and I didn't get any of the good parts, and at some point I was like, this is depressing. So basically what drove me out of theater probably was just the fact that I wasn't successful at it, and then I was like, let me find something.
You knew your limit. You knew it's like, okay, I don't want to do this because it's not working out for me. I want to try something else.
Yeah, I was like a young kid, but and then at some point I was like, wow, film. I always loved movies. Like I love the celebrity aspect of movies, not as an art form, but I loved going to movies, and I loved I remember I was like loved Tom Hanks and like all these, I was just sort of like movie obsessed. And then at some point I was like, sometime in high school actually, I was like learned more about movie making, and I got really into it. And it was a lot like theater making, but just.
What is it about high school that if you love movies, sometime in high school you decide I'm going to try making a movie? Maybe it's you want artistic expression.
I think that's the thing is like it seems much cooler than theater. Like especially like I just said, like theater in high school was very like a little nerdy, and like people were really into it was like insular, and like I was like, well, I'll just make films and I'll be like, there wasn't like a million kids doing films, so I was like the only one doing it, so it made me feel cool. Yeah, it's sort of like joining a rock band,
Exactly.
Because I'm sure now everyone in high school is like filmmaking, but when I was in high school, literally nobody was doing it, and I remember being like one of the only people in my high school to be making films, and like I think I just got more and more into film, and I really, really liked it. I mean, truthfully, like my high school film experience might have been like the truest version of my passion, like in that time between like 17 and 22 or something when I went to college too. Like I think my passion for film was probably its highest. Like I really just would do anything, and I remember being on my first film sets and like really, really loving it. There's something so cool about it. There's not many things in life where you do something and you're like, oh, this is really drawing me to the point where I like I'm just bursting about it. That opportunity to feel so connected to something, well, why would I do anything else? Like if something makes you feel so that way, then why would you do something else? So that's why there was never any like, oh, let me go to medical school.
When you started shooting movies, were you going straight to sets, or did you have like a VHS camera or a mini DV camera you were shooting on?
For the first film I had made, which is funny because I really wish that I have it somewhere, maybe I do, but like we used my friends, it was like for high school, like senior project, we used a high 8 camera, because remember we had high 8 tapes, and I have no idea what a high 8 camera is, but I remember shooting a few other things that I don't remember. I think the AV department of my high school had cameras, but I don't know if I ever had my own camera that I used. So yeah, I mean, wasn't like running out the door like filming everything I saw. I mean, truthfully, like even when I was in high school, I was like, I'm gonna make like artistic things. Like I was never into like blowing up things. You know what I mean? You know how you always hear stories? It's like Steven Spielberg was like took a Super 8 and like created an action sequence. Actually, one of the first things I remember filming was there was a short story that we read, or actually I think it's a play. I don't know if you read it in your high school, but it's called The Zoo Story.
No, I have not read that one. Man, another one for the list. Waiting for Guffman and The Zoo Story.
Well, Waiting for Guffman's a movie.
I got you there.
But Zoo Story was like a play by Edward Albee. Do you know who that is?
No, I don't. Edward Albee. I'll write that one down.
Check, please. Yeah, and I remember filming that as like a project in the first film class we ever took in high school. And that's literally like two people on a bench talking, which I still think is like, I would totally make a movie, just two people sitting on a bench talking.
You go to college in New York, and then you go on to NYU.
I actually went to undergrad in Washington, D.C. At that point, and I think I still am very into politics, but I was very into like current events, I should say, public policy type stuff. You know, it wasn't like a political junkie. I wouldn't want to work in like like in a campaign, but I was interested in like the world. The school I went to obviously was in Washington, D.C., and I felt like, oh, I can like marry. It's a good marriage between like world current events and film. They had a good film program. I unfortunately never did that, which I don't know why I didn't. I never married those two things there, which you would have thought I would have done, but I never did. I really liked going to school in Washington, D.C. It's a really great city, and I don't know what it's like now. This was like back in, the late 90s. So
were you in college when 9/11 happened then?
No. I graduated college in May of 2001. So I graduated college in 2001, and then 3 months later was 9/11. Then I went to grad school starting 2004, and I finished around 2008, and the global recession hit right then. So, I mean, it didn't really affect me that much, but still, in general, it was sort of like, I feel like since I've graduated college, it's been like a series of insanity. Yeah. I feel like a lot's happened in a short period of time, but I guess lots always happen in forever. It's just sort of how we view it.
Time is an illusion, man. Let's get into First Love. Saw a Takeshi Miike movie called First Love comes up first, which is... Are you a fan of Miike?
No, but I think I told that whole story, how that film kept showing up as my film.
No, you haven't told me that story. That's the perfect story for a podcast.
It's a long story. No, basically, yeah, I mean, when I wrote the film, it wasn't called First Love, but at some point I named it First Love. This is years ago, and I was like, oh, it's probably not the smartest title, because there's probably a lot of movies called First Love, but at the same time, it's fun because it makes people think the movie's about something that it's not. And then basically when the film finally got its distribution, which was the middle of last year, and we set on the date, which is going to be December, I saw that there was a new movie called First Love by Takeshi Miike, who I'd never seen any films by, but I knew he was like a gangster director. I didn't think anything about it. There's probably like a million movies called First Love, and I knew this movie was coming out, but what can you do? And also it's a Japanese language film. I kind of just forgot about it, and then my film was being released because it was such an indie distribution company, a very low-level marketing, very low-level organization. So the film was released in LA for 1 week, and it was like going to be on Rotten Tomatoes and and all these film websites where you can buy tickets. And I went like a few weeks before, and I was like, went to Rotten Tomatoes, and I go to my movie, and it shows like the poster for the other First Love. And then when you click on the link, it goes to like the other First Love's trip.
I think Miike is trying to sabotage you, man.
So anyway, but it was like, then I was like, well, I mean, there's like a famous movie maker. Like, if people think they're going to see his film, maybe that's a good thing, But literally to the very end, to the day before my movie got released, I couldn't figure out how to get. I used my connections from Fox to try to get in touch with people because Fandango and Rotten Tomatoes are owned by the same company. So I was trying to get in touch with someone at Fandango, and finally, like literally 2 hours before my movie got released, someone at Fandango finally changed to my movie First Love.
Oh wow!
It was such a hot mess, and it was. I mean, at the end of the day, like my movie isn't having like $1 million marketing budget, so it wasn't like tons of people were running to go look at Rotten Tomatoes for First Love, but it was a total shit show.
It's your first movie, man. It's a big deal.
It was. I was really pissed off. I mean, I was like through the roof pissed off. I was like, there weren't many things that were stressful making this movie where I got really upset, but that was one of the biggest things for the reason you just said, which was like, it's my first movie ever, and I go to the fucking website to buy tickets, and it's not even my fucking movie that's there. Yeah, I was really upset, but now I think it's kind of funny.
So let us read the synopsis for First Love. Michael Masarof's First Love. Not Takeshi Miike's First Love. This First Love. Man, I'm going to say it honestly. When I saw First Love as the title, there we go. I thought it was going to be a weird sort of like, oh, it's First Love. Also, he's trying to resolve his relationship with his twin sister. Why is it called First Love and his twin sister? And my mind went from there.
No, yeah. I mean, that's also why I wanted to do it, because I was like, oh, that's really funny. It's like a funny way to like troll, to bait people into thinking that it's going to be like something that it's not. And also inside the movie, it self-referentials that, the author of the book, remember the publisher is like, oh, why don't you make your book about incest? And it's sort of like, maybe you should make your movie about incest. And then I always said if my movie had incest in it, it would be in Cannes, the film festival.
Oh, in cons. Oh.
No, it's con. You don't.
I don't put the S. I've been saying it wrong all these years, and I haven't seen Waiting for Guffman. Damn it.
I think it's that you get an automatic into con if you have twin incest in your movie. Well, there is no con film festival this year.
There's no film festivals right now, except for the online ones. All these releases being pushed back, and I think they're eventually just going to go online. I hope the theaters recover.
I think that whenever this ends, no matter what the industry is, people are going to want to go to restaurants, go to movie theaters. But yeah, I mean, the question is, will it be too late? I mean, I think that like art house movie theaters, like a Cinefamily or Cinefamily's gone, but I mean like New Beverly or those will. I don't know. It's hard to say. It's weird, and it's weird as a filmmaker because you're like, is this like the end of my career? I mean, not the end of my career, because a big thing is you want your movie to play in theaters, and this really could be the death knell for that. So we'll see. I don't know. I mean, in the end of the day, I guess like there's still going to be tons of content for streaming, but it's scary. I mean, it's a scary time.
And it's also kind of like, what's the point for some people? Yeah,
exactly.
When I picture a movie, when I used to look through the little thing on the VHS camera growing up as a kid, I'd pretend that was a tiny movie theater inside the little eyepiece, and I would, that's how I would frame shots.
Right.
Is pretending that's on a huge screen, and now if you don't have the huge screen, what's the point?
I do think, though, no matter what, people, whether it's like the first wave of people being allowed out or when it's actually really, really gone, that is one thing that people really don't want to do is go see movies in a movie theater.
I think you have a point there. So let's get to your movie, First Love. Michael Masarof's First Love, once again. Here it is off Amazon Prime. When a notorious Hollywood actress suffers a nervous breakdown and hides in a seaside hotel, her slacker twin brother must make a choice. Save his troubled sister from herself, or sell his explosive tell-all book and sacrifice their twin bond for good.
Woo! Sounds like a smoking movie. Sounds like the kind of movie you want to run out and buy, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Go get it. Rent it for $2.99 on Amazon Prime.
$2.99. What a steal.
It's a great deal. So where did the idea of First Love come from, Michael?
So yeah, I mean, basically the idea came from, I have a twin sister, and I wanted to tell a story that was simple, but like very close. I want to tell a story, but I want it to be really I want to be really knowledgeable about it. Like I want to feel like it's coming from me in a really personal way. So for me, it was like, here's a simple story about two people who sort of lost themselves and their relationship, and can they, by fixing the relationship, sort of regain who they are. It's a sort of a finding yourself movie, but I call it the anti-finding yourself movie, because sort of the tropes of finding yourself are sort of subverted here.
Oh, I would agree with that. Finding yourself movies kind of have a positivity to them near the end. Oh, almost like a blindly optimistic fairy tale land.
Yeah. There's the Hollywood Finding Yourself, which usually has a very happy ending, and then there's the indie film Finding Yourself, which is more sometimes conflicted. I guess I was looking at both those movies, but I think I have a third way, which is sort of my movie, which is subverts both of those Finding Yourself versions. I never really set out to make a movie about finding yourself, but I think that's sort of in some ways what the movie is. It's about people trying to connect and get to a better place.
What year did you shoot it?
So we shot this actually already 2016, the winter of 2016. Yeah, it was a very fast shoot. We shot in 12 days altogether, 12 to 13 days, and we shot all around LA, Orange County, Venice, my neighborhood, Echo Park. So altogether, it was we shot in a hotel. It was a lot of, the thing that's funny is we shot a lot of places, but everything was very centralized in the place. So, I mean, you've seen the movie, so it's it's a lot of people talking in rooms, but it's done in a very in a very oh my goodness, in a very cinematic way. I don't even know the word I'm looking for. We tried to purposely be okay, this is a movie about people talking in rooms, and it's not just going to be the classic look like shit movie, because I feel like people, when they make cheap movies, I mean low budget movies, are just because I'm making a low budget movie where things aren't blowing up, it has to look low budget, which I don't really get that. It's no one wants to see your shitty, crappy movie that sounds like shit and looks like shit and is acted like shit, even though the story is really good. I think production value, you want everything to sound, look, be performed well, and the story wants, you want a good story. So for me, it was try to get all those things as much as you can.
I don't necessarily agree with that, but I mean, I understand that there are a lot of films out there that are we have a small script and we don't have a lot of experience making something, or maybe don't even have a lot of experience going to school to know how to shoot something cinematically. But I just think the it's not so much that they're trying to make it look like shit, but I think, from my experience, it's just the sheer ease of making a movie today just invites a wave full of people who don't know what they're doing with their equipment.
No, I think you're right. And I do think that there's something to be said about if you can't have the money for this, maybe you spend it doing that. For me, it was like, I knew that my story was very small, you know, in a sort of like stylized way. And I knew that because of that, a big part of my film was like the mood of it. And that's, I think, something that has actually been missed in a lot of the, not that there's been like 100 reviews of the movie. The movie wasn't made to tell you some sort of like Don Quixote story of life, you know? That's not, like, the film's purpose isn't that. The film's purpose is about like how people interact, you know, conversations, interactions, and like, and mood and feel. And like, I think a lot of people go to movies and they just want to be washed over with whatever shit they're watching. Like, my movie is much more about like making the audience like work and get into the film and understand sort of the more subtleties of the film. So, you know, some people are like, oh, art films, this it's boring, I don't want to watch it. It's like, you know, I made a movie so that people could experience film in a different way, take it or leave it. I know that what I did was my own, so.
Not afraid to be what it is.
Exactly, and I think it was a risk, and you know, a lot of filmmakers, I think it's changed a little bit, but like sort of the old maxim in filmmaking, make commercial films for everyone, and then you get to make your own film at the end. You know, like, look at like, what's his face? Alfonso Cuarón. Basically, Roma was his like first love, you know, and that was like 30 years into his career, 20 years after he's made Harry Potter. Whereas this is my first film, and it's like small and intimate. And so for me, I mean, I think maybe it's because where I am, and maybe it's because where I came from, but this is probably the kind of movies that I'll keep making. You know, I hope I can, you know, make a living off of them if you help me.
Rent his movie. You bring up a point. Before you had to follow certain rules, and now you don't have to.
To be a successful Hollywood director for at least a chunk of time, it was about like going to a really prestigious film school like NYU, where I went, and then like kind of going through the assembly line of filmmaking. But now so many more people, you know, are filmmakers, writers, I mean, meaning like writers, authors are in it. And like, I mean, it's that age of like film school directors is over. And now it's, I mean, I think a lot of directors still go to film school, but the point is the studio system, the way to become a director is so much different. The indie world, because you can just self-distribute your film on a platform like Amazon. 20 years ago, if I made this kind of film that truthfully, you know, hasn't been like a huge commercial success, you know, we were able to release it for a week, but like, for all I know, I could have been stuck with like 500 DVDs trying to sell them out of the back of my trunk. You know?
Yeah. Or
and now it's like, watch my film on Amazon. The whole sort of assembly line of how to make films has completely changed, from writing to making them to getting them released to, you know, it's interesting. It's been a crazy time for a long time. This crisis will only make it even crazier.
I have daymares, you know, nightmare, you know, you sit back and think, and you're like, oh fuck, how badly can things go film wise. I'm sure you do this for like, what if there are no theaters? What if we just everything is just made and put on streaming immediately? That kind of freaks me out.
Yeah, I mean, it freaks me out, but at the same time, like, for me, it's like, you know, the Spike Lee thing, by any means necessary. I mean, I know that's a Malcolm X thing, but he wrote that filmmaking book about how to make movies by any. So in the end of the day, like, we're gonna find a way to make films.
Oh, absolutely. I just hope we're actually doing it with making films with people, and like going out with cameras and pointing them at people at real locations, instead of making everything with computer graphics.
We will. I mean, I think no matter what, it will. Even if the thing takes a long time, even if it takes like a year to do it, it will happen. I mean, my next film is about human beings, and I plan on making it come hell or high water. So
hell yeah, I can't wait to see it. Piggybacking on the whole idea that things have changed, it doesn't cost as much to make movies now. But what was your budget for this?
Budget for this came in a little bit under, or I guess over, like 100 grand.
100 grand?
I want to say it was about 150 grand.
150. Yeah. So you were micro.
Yeah, for sure.
Because 150 seems to be the recurring theme. The guy before you was 150. The first guy was 150. Now, did you raise that money upfront, or is it 150 with deferred payments?
No. We paid. I had a weird thing. So like the deferred thing, I was like, oh, I'll defer it, and it was like nobody wants to fucking work for deferred payments. Like, so I've been in the film industry for a really long time, for like 20 years. Like, when I say film industry, like I've worked on like before I worked with you at Fox. Mm-hmm. When I lived in New York, I worked for 10 years on like in actual like on set. So I was like working on studio films. I worked on indie films. I worked for like basically from the 2001, the first film, or 2000, the first one I worked on as an intern, to like, so I've literally been on any film set for any amount of money you could work on. Like, I've been on the ultra low budget movie that never saw the light of day for free, and I've been on like a big budget Hollywood movie you know? So for me, it's almost like it's hard for me to work with people who don't know what they're doing. Like, it's hard for me to make a movie and be like, let me just, neighbor, come and hold the boom for me. You know, it's not like, and my wife is a sound designer. So for me, I wasn't going to make a movie and be like, oh, Joe Schmo can hold the boom. It's fine. I knew that I needed to hire a professional boom operator, professional sound, and those people don't work for free. I mean, they might defer payment if it's like, I'm making a movie about saving the world, like African hunger or something. But, you know, if you're making a real movie like this, it's hard to get anyone to work for free. If anything, my crew was great, but they were like, not only do I want money, I want over. You know, the way we made our film was very, very professional.
So it's
in terms of the way that we paid people over time, like it was very union rules without being a union film. So everyone got paid very, very well. They got paid overtime. Nobody got short shifted or anything like that. Most of the budget went to the actors got paid under the SAG ultra low budget agreement. The budget was basically for, you know, we only shot 12 days and like we shot 2 of the locations were free. And one of them was a hotel room that we used for, that we actually stayed at. So we just paid the hotel fee. So we kept our locations low. It was really, insurance was a big budget item and you have to pay cities to film there, even if you're not filming in the city.
Oh, really?
That was really expensive.
So you paid the city of Santa Monica?
We paid City Santa Monica, we paid the city of Seal Beach, which is where we've shot the hotel.
Okay.
City of Los Angeles. So yeah, it was really expensive. It wasn't worth the risk to be shut down. I spent like so much time making this movie that I was like, why risk? Basically, you're shooting for 12 days. Why try to risk? It was a risk not worth taking. Where someone else would be like, oh, we're only shooting for 12 days. Why not? Let's not get a permit because it's only 12 days. But it was what, you know, to rent camera equipment is really, really expensive. You know, we got like a grant. We got a free equipment from Panavision, but it was like, why would I sacrifice that free? Imagine that we got shut down and you came back to Panavision. It was like, oh, can we actually have your camera in 3 weeks because our production got shut down because we didn't have a permit. It was like, I wasn't fucking taking that risk. So, you know.
How did you go about getting a grant from Panavision?
We got a grant from Panavision through my cinematographer.
Oh, cool. You meet people and you know, the next person you might meet might be a cinematographer and they might get you a grant.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's all going through professional people because I was like, I only want to work with professionals, and my cinematographer was like a graduate of AFI, which is one of the best film schools for cinematographers in the world. So she had a relationship with Panavision. I didn't know that when I hired her, that she had a relationship with.
That was just a cool thing you found out.
Yeah.
Sweet. What camera did you shoot on?
Arri Alexa.
The Arri Alexa, the full size?
I don't remember. You have to ask her.
Camera they shot Drive on.
I never saw Drive.
Now who hasn't seen a movie? When you were raising the money, how did you raise it?
We raised it through crowdfunding.
Through crowdfunding?
And some private investors.
So like Indiegogo, Kickstarter, and then you had to go to some investors and say, give them the whole pitch meeting kind of deal?
Yeah, I mean, mostly the few, we didn't have a lot, but the few we had, I would say 90% of the investors were people I knew already. Yeah, there were people I had like pre-existing relationships with.
If you have a pre-existing relationship with someone, how do you come up to them and say, hey, can I get money for my film? Do you come up with them with a contract, or do you invite them over?
The first step would be hiring a lawyer. Actually, it was literally the first step. Other than writing the script, the first thing I did to get this movie made was hire a lawyer, which isn't cheap.
No,
I think you can do it using some service, but again, I was like, I don't want to like do something and then have it not work out. I just wanted to so I hired a lawyer who works on a lot of indie stuff, and I had her make an operating agreement for my LLC. I created an LLC and had her make an operating agreement. And that way, from that point, you can do almost anything, raising funds, like SAG requires an operating agreement to make a movie. So if you want to cast actors, you need an operator. So that was like the first thing you need to do if you're just making a movie that's like sort of super run and gun maybe, and you're not going to care about anything, then maybe forget about it. But like if I wanted to hire professional actors through like an agency and stuff like that and use SAG, you need an operating agreement. So yeah, I went to my investors and I was like, also made an investor package, which I built off of, I had asked a friend who had done one to see theirs, and I just created it as like through that, and I found films that were similar to my film and showed their budgets. I mean, obviously, in the end of the day, like my film, because it has such a small release, isn't going to be, similar to yada yada. But
you go in big,
Exactly, yeah. I mean, I'm actually think the investors should be. I mean, I haven't really talked to many of them, but I think in the end of the day, it's great. Like if I could have told them that guaranteed the film will be streaming on Amazon, I'm sure be really happy. So in the end, they may have not made their money back, which wasn't that much money anyway, but they're definitely like, at least they can say, hey, I invested in a film and it is out in the world, not like they can tell their friends, go watch the film that, you know, I produced, executive produced. But yeah, I mean, I basically showed them the operating agreement, showed them that business plan. And because I had a, you know, pre-existing relationship with them, they knew what I could do. And they just, you know, I assume they weren't poor. You know, it wasn't they were giving me like, they had $10,000 in the bank and they were giving me like $5,000. You know, these were people with lots and lots of money who were giving me a very, very small portion of their life savings. There was a very wealthy hedge fund billionaire that gave me a little bit of money. There was another pretty wealthy guy in LA. I mean, people that I knew, they're great and they helped out a lot. And without them, the film couldn't have been made. But they weren't like, again, they weren't giving me $1 million. So
it's amazing what's relative, you know? It's like
exactly. Well, that's funny though, is because it's funny that you say that, because at some point I was like, $5,000 is a lot of money, and then after making a movie, you're like, $5,000, like you can basically buy craft service for $5,000. There's a line in the movie where he was supposed to get an advance for like $20,000, and when I feel like when I was writing the script in like 2010, I was like, thought $20,000 was a lot of money. But now I feel like $20,000 is no money, and I like never changed that line in the script. And it's sort of almost like the advance should have been $100,000.
I think that worked though in the movie. It just goes to show that what his expectations of what LA was going to be, and what they actually were completely different. And I think that's just the tone of your movie in a nutshell. Where it's like I think you came to LA, I came to LA, people listening came to LA with expectations in mind. And when you get to LA doesn't give a shit about you.
No.
LA is going to be LA, and it's going to be LA until the world ends. If you were to shoot your movie traditionally, like if it were a romantic comedy, it would seem very whimsical. And like meeting with Milena would be a little more, meet cutie. And like the guy reading the book would be a little more villainous instead of just being another guy.
Yeah, a big part of the movie for me was that like both the things you just mentioned. One is that it's about like the Los Angeles like dream family, which I think is kind of funny. Like I definitely meant for it to be kind of funny, and like it's interesting because like you picked up on it. I think a few other people have too, but I wonder if it is like you really have to have gone through something here to get it. And I wish, and you know, obviously it's on Amazon and it has a big audience, but also like in some ways, hopefully by you pointing that out, it's another way to market the film, because it's like something that I don't think is talked about enough about my movie. This idea of like Los Angeles being this place where we're just constantly like,
it's constantly gonna break your heart, man.
And then your second point about it being like, yeah, like that bar scene was totally like written on purpose to be like, in a normal movie, the meet cute thing would be like more whimsical, and it would be like, oh, it's all working out and everything. You know, I was like, how does this? Yeah, it was like it's basically my take on all these different things that in movies, and even it's not even Hollywood movies. Sometimes in indie films, it's also like portrayed in this sort of like meet cute or whimsical, or it's portrayed super dark, you know, or like super sexual. In a more artistic indie film, that would have like really hard sex. I purposely was like trying to create this sort of like running commentary in my own film about others. Yeah.
As I was watching it last night again, and I'm just like, there's everyone here. They are the characters that you would see in a whimsical movie. They're the stock characters that you'd see, but they're not portrayed in any way that like they should be. Like the bellhop in the other movie would be like some handsome bellhop guy, and she's like having an affair with him, and it's like that's happening, but it's really sad. It's really frustrating.
I'm so glad I feel like we should get this soundbite of you saying this about my movie, and I'm going to use it as like a marketing. I'm being serious. Like,
oh, sure.
It's like, I do think that's something that is missing in the reviews of the film, is that sort of purposeful thing I'm trying to do. So I'm really glad you picked up on it. It's a weird thing to make a movie that's in some ways like a commentary on other movies. And like, how do you say that to people before they watch it? And also, I think most people going into movies just want to be like washed over with the relationship based on the stupid relationship they always see in all movies, where that way they don't have to think about it. They're just like, oh, now this happens, then that works out, and then this happens, and then I can go home and like go to sleep. You know, it's like the fact that they have to like do work or be like shaken out of their comfort zone is something that I think a lot of people don't want.
Oh yeah, man. It's the idea that things are not going to be okay, and I think by the end, I don't think I'm giving anything away, but I was even jarred a little bit, where I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, things aren't going to be okay, but they're okay enough.
Yeah. Oh, that's good too. You have all the good sound bites.
Oh, thank you.
Things are not. That would have been a good tagline for the movie. Things are not going to be okay, but they're going to be good enough. That's totally like would be the best tagline. Should I just write that in Sharpie over the?
You should make little text bubbles like in a cartoon on the two characters. And are things going to be okay? No, but they'll be okay enough. You bring up an interesting point. It is hard to market a satire or like a parody or a serious parody, like not serious. Like it's like a serious critique.
Or critique.
It's a serious critique of something without people thinking Naked Gun or Airplane or Scary Movie.
Yeah.
This is a critique of Finding Yourself movies.
Like the master of that, but like he's a master filmmaker, Jean-Luc Godard. And his films, and I haven't even seen all his films, but he's made like hundreds of movies, but like so much of his movies are about other movies and commentaries on other movies. And, but he's so kind of brilliant. I don't know if I'm that smart, but like I do think that there are other films that do this and they do it successful, but it's hard. You're right. It's hard to market a serious satire versus like this is Naked Gun or this is like Dr. Strangelove.
So I see that we're approaching our time limit. Let's get a few more questions in. One thing I like to ask in this podcast is how you dealt with problems that came up, and then how you also dealt with the fear that comes with production.
Sort of laid out sort of my background is, for me, I can't say I was very worried about a lot of things because I've not only as a director made a lot of films, but not a feature, but shorts, but also as like a filmmaker, I've been on a lot of sets. So awesome. I think that a big thing for me was that if the movie was like talking about stunt movies, if it was like, okay, we're going to blow up like a car in the Hollywood Hills, I'd be like, fuck, we could really fuck this up. But I think the movie is basically, like I said, a lot of people, it's a lot of just performance-based things. And so, and I knew that I had casted well already. So I wasn't super worried about that. I think the most I was worried about is when we're filming in the hotel, I was a little bit freaked out that the hotel would like eventually get pissed off at us about filming there. Or probably the biggest fear I had during production was more about, can we actually really film this in 10 days?
I see.
And then also, like, there were a lot of things in the original script that I had to cut out because we didn't have time to do it, and hoping that would be okay in the editing room. I mean, it ended up being fine. I guess I knew, the thing is, going into the movie, making this movie, I had made so many sacrifices already that I was willing to make many more. Which is funny because I feel like most people when they make movies are like, the classic Hollywood studio directors, like, I refuse to get rid of anything. It's like kill your darlings. But I think in general I was like, this movie needs to get made. I mean, obviously I'm not going to take out the most important part of the movie. But the point is, in the end of the day, like, I think I just, it's confidence, but it's experience, and it's like knowing what you wrote. And I lived with the script for so long. Like one of the biggest things about filmmaking, which, you don't learn a lot of things in film school. Everyone's like, why go to film school? What's the point? But I do think one of the bigger things is like preparation. And I think like the best filmmakers and the best films have probably been made by filmmakers who are extremely prepared. I think if you're not prepared, you're fucked. I think it's one of the most important parts of filmmaking. I mean, one of the things that sometimes I'm like, I'm not doing enough. Like I remember in film school, they showed us Francis Ford Coppola's like binder for The Godfather.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's gorgeous.
And it's like ridiculous. You're like, holy shit, like that guy was so fucking prepared to make this movie. And it's no surprise that it's one of the greatest films of all time. You know what I mean? It's like you can't just go be like, okay, I'm making a movie, I'll go over there and do over that, and then no. It's like I prepare, but sometimes I'm like, I'm not prepared. I haven't prepared enough. I think I prepare in my own way. Like the things that I'm good at, I try to do, really get into. But some of the other things, like I'm not necessarily like the most, I'm not like storyboarder. I leave a lot of like my shot selection, leave a lot to the DP. So, but I think preparation.
Probably the best thing you can recommend.
If I was going to recommend something to like first-time filmmakers for your first feature, I'd be like, prepare like there's no tomorrow, because if you have everything ready to go, then there's nothing to worry about.
There's nothing worse than not knowing the answer on set. I'll tell you that.
I mean, it depends. I mean, I'm a big collaborator, so a lot of times I don't know, and I'm not afraid to say that. But if you're just like lost.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean.
It's like one thing to not know something, another thing just to be completely lost.
But
I do think sometimes, like on set, some people are just like, this is what it's like. But it's like, a lot of times I don't know. And I'm like, you know what? That's a good question. Can we figure this out together?
Collaboration is the beautiful thing about filmmaking. So let's move away from the film. Take a look back at you as a person who loves cinema. Who are some of your favorite directors?
Well, I think we talked about him earlier, and I know it's sort of like a little pretentious, but he is just pound to pound probably the greatest filmmaker, Godard. And his films are so varied that it's sort of like, to be like, oh, he made Breathless, and it's sort of like, well, he made like so many strange, interesting films that it's sort of like, and then they never play, but when you see, like, I remember seeing a film of his, like, from 1980 at, like, LACMA or something, like, a few years ago, and I was like, cool, like, this movie is ridiculously amazing. It's like, you would never even know that it existed. I mean, favorite directors, like working today in Hollywood, like, I really love Paul Thomas Anderson, I love Wes Anderson, sort of all-time directors, very, like, classic Hollywood, but, like, Hitchcock, Orson Welles, trying to think who else, Billy Wilder, like, more foreign filmmakers, I really love Antonioni. Somehow, like, film school skipped him, which is weird, because you think they'd be all over his jock, but Bergman is like, I just, a couple of years ago in LA, saw all the way through, they played the whole thing all day of Franny and Alexander, which is his, like, not his most famous movie, but, like, his epic. It was originally released on Swedish television, so that's why it's 7 hours long, but it's, like, literally one of the most amazing films I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, wow. I'll have to look that up. So
you go into films like that, you're just sort of like, know what to expect, and then you're like, oh, this is, like, life-changing event, you know what I mean? And I've already seen so many movies, you know?
Isn't that great when you see a movie, when you see a movie after you're being jaded? I've seen so many movies, and you see a movie that just hits you in the face.
Exactly, because I feel like I'm one of those directors who are like, oh, I've seen everything, there's nothing else to see. And then even when there's stuff that people are like, this is amazing, I'm like, it was okay. But something like that, I mean, there's a lot of Asian filmmakers there was like a big 90s, early 2000s Asian wave. I think they called it like Chinese New Wave, and like there's some really amazing directors that came out of that.
Wrap things up. Kind of a cliche question, but what is your greatest movie of all time?
Probably changes a lot. I still think probably the greatest movie of all time in terms of like cinematic experience of watching it is 2001: Space Odyssey.
And what right now? If someone's asking you, hey Michael, what movie should I go watch tonight? I know we can't go outside because the theaters are shut down. It's kind of shitty. I hate to say that out loud. What can we rent? What do we watch after First Love?
It's actually a good question. Like, what would be a good companion piece to it? I don't know. I mean, I've been watching older movies because I feel like I told you before, it's been hard for me to watch newer movies. It feels too real. So I've been trying to like do more escapist, like old Hollywood. I was going to recommend two movies. Like they're both like kind of old school Hollywood screwball movies, and I really love Cary Grant. So Awful Truth is a really amazing movie, and another one that's really old school and really amazing is Only Angels Have Wings.
Only Angels Have Wings.
And they both star Cary Grant. They're just great, really fun, amazing movies that will make you feel good. One of them's about pilots in South America who are like basically have to fly through like the world's worst weather conditions.
Oh, really?
What's her name's first on like big role, like speaking role? Rita Hayworth.
Oh, wow.
It's actually funny because I had seen it before, but I wanted to watch it again because I was like wanted to watch an old movie to like make myself feel better, and I forgot that Rita Hayworth was in it, and she's like amazing, and it's funny to see her and Cary Grant in like together in a movie or just sort of like two Hollywood royalty together, but
we'll put those movies in the link so you can check them out. They're worth the rental. But first watch First Love. Speaking of First Love, where can we watch it?
So I'll send you the links, but it's on Amazon Prime for rent. It's on Google Play and YouTube for rent, and it's streaming for free on Tubi, but there's commercials. But it's a great way to watch the movie. You can watch it for free. And
so, Michael, we've come to the end of the interview. The man is Michael Masarof. The film is First Love. We know where to watch your film, Michael. Where do we find you?
The best place to find me is on the website for the film, which is firstlovefeature.com. And that's all the handles for my film is First Love Feature.
All social media handles.
Yeah, or First Love Feature, because First Love, as we talked about, was taken. So
thanks, Takeshi Miike.
You can find my Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Is my email there? My email's michaelmasarof@gmail.com. I appreciate this great interview. You're easygoing interviewer. You have a future career in this. So
thank you, sir.
Appreciate your insights into the film, and your questions were good. And yeah, I had a lot of fun.
I know you touched on what's next. Next is you got another script coming.
Well, that's also why I was watching some of those romantic comedies, because I feel like even though I think you understand that First Love is funny, but a lot of people think it's like dark.
I could see that. I can see how it's...
So I wanted to write something that's more light, and this is, it's sort of its own version of light, because it's still like a Michael Masarof movie, so it's sort of like a kind of classic Hollywood romantic comedy told in my style.
Sounds great.
So it's sort of like, if you like First Love, then...
Can't wait to watch it, and and have you back on the show for the sophomore edition.
Yeah, man. You'll have to pay me that time.
All right, I see how you are. All right, Michael, it's been great talking to you.
Talking to you.
All right.
Be safe. Bye.
Come on, there's a treat. Gotten more treats.
Please love me, Gypsy. I have treats.
So that's my interview with Michael Masarof. What a guy, huh? Cool character. And if you want to check out more of Michael's stuff, as well as the films he recommended, I put links in the show notes below. So that's episode number 4 of the Hey, You Made Your Movie show. I hope you enjoyed it. And remember, if you've made your movie and released it within the last year or so, send me an email with a link to the movie. I want to watch it. And then maybe, if the stars align, I'll get you on the show and I can talk to you about it. It'll be a great time. And if you haven't already, remember to hit that like and subscribe button. Have you followed us on social media? I hope you have. So, for the Hey You Made Your Movie show, I'm Carl Diamond. And until next time, keep making movies. If you're not making movies, keep watching movies and writing scripts and researching and looking into new concepts and ways of doing things. Own your craft, because no one else is going to own it for you. Don't let your ego get in the way. I can't wait to see all the movies you're going to make, but first, you have to make them. Stay safe out there. I'll see you next time.